Over the last 10 years, we've been fortunate enough to show you guys some of the coolest catamarans in the world. Today, I'm gonna take you on the most unique boat we have ever done at Catamaran Central. If you were to try to recreate this boat in today's marketplace, it would easily cost you in excess of $10 million. My name is Wiley Sharp with Catamaran Central, and I'm hanging out in Spanish waters, Curacao right now on board Orion, the only Catana 90 ever built by the storied French shipyard. Catana has built almost 1,000 boats during their history, and without a doubt, Orion is the most famous Catana ever built. It's the only Catana 90 that was built, and she was built for an existing owner that had already circumnavigated on a 582, so he knew everything that he loved about that 582 and what he wanted in building a mega performance cruising catamaran. She's 90 feet long and has a beam of almost 40 feet and weighs in just a hair over 70 tons, making her all about performance, which is kind of what Catana's about. Catana's ethos from day one was performance, safety, and comfort. She's got a 126-foot carbon fiber mast and boom. She had custom built sails from Evolution Sails out of New Zealand that are absolutely gorgeous. Kevlar rigging with titanium chain plates, lithium batteries, 10,000 watts of solar. Where do you ever see 10,000 watts of solar on a large luxury performance cruising catamaran? You don't, we have them here. We're gonna begin today's tour of Orion here on the foredeck. Now, as we make our way through all of the spaces on board this unique, one-of-a-kind catamaran, we're gonna really focus on the three things that define Catana during this era of catamaran. And that's performance, safety, and comfort. To have an excellent blue water cruising boat, you need to have all three of those, and we're gonna show you how Orion completes that objective. Diving right into the performance components of Orion's foredeck, it all starts here with the longeron, which is perfectly integrated into the composite forward crossbeam. Up here on the longeron, we have the staysail, which is paired to a Falconer roller furler, as well as the Yankee, which I'm currently touching right now, which is on a Reckman hydraulic furler. And then just behind where I'm standing, we've got the tack point for the Code Zero, which is an incredibly large light wind sail. Moving from the performance component, let's talk a little bit about the comfort on board Orion and the part the foredeck plays in that. On these two outboard deck hatches, we have two 1,700 liter diesel tanks. Not only does that fuel allow you to run the generators and air conditioning, but it gives you the ability to reach the furthest parts of the planet by water, places that most people will never get to experience in their own private yacht. Inboard of that, we have two large lazarettes, which gives you more than enough deck storage up here on the foredeck. Kind of while we're talking about safety, just aft of these four lockers is the double Muir hydraulic windlass with an oversized Ultra 165 kilogram anchor, as well as a permanently affixed secondary anchor, meaning that sleeping at night should never be a concern because your ground tackle should not let you down. Over here in the port bow, we have a full-size workshop, which is not only an important comfort component, but also a safety component. From my experience running boats, the easier a boat is to maintain, the more comfortable it's gonna be to live on, and the safer you're gonna be while at sea. And that workshop has me envious. I wish when I was running boats, I had that kind of space to complete maintenance projects in. And on the starboard bow, we have a large toy locker slash sail locker, which definitely plays into the comfort component on being on board. It gives you the ability to bring every water toy you could ever imagine, giving you the ultimate access to adventure no matter where in the world you are. As we continue making our way aft, how do we not stop and just talk about this beautiful over 120 foot carbon fiber mast that was recently painted black, paired to a beautiful carbon fiber canoe style boom, housing a custom built Evolution square top laminated sail. Without a doubt, one of the sexiest sails I've seen on a catamaran in a very long time. Today was one of those days that in a lesser boat would not have been a lot of fun on the water. We were definitely getting gusts close to 35, 36 knots, consistently 25, 28, 29 knots of breeze out there. And we just got this boat in a groove. The owner elected to put two reefs in the mainsail and run the staysail for the sail plan for the day. And once we got everything set, I mean, we were just gliding through it, eating away the miles. It's been a very long time since I've been on a boat that handled conditions like that this gracefully. Making our way down the starboard weather deck, there's a few safety components I really want to touch on briefly, which is the height and robustness of the lifelines and just how wide this space is. Now, transitioning from there to performance, this is a performance boat, which means she has dagger boards. So when the boards are up, she draws about 1.7 meters. And when the boards are down, it goes to a little over 4.5 meters, giving you very, very good upwind performance. She'll outpoint most monohulls, easily getting up to 32, 33 degrees, which is not common in a catamaran, particularly of this size. Now, what's the point in having all this safety and performance if you're not going to be comfortable? One of the things up here on the hardtop that's worth pointing out is the 4,000 watts of flexible panels. Above the cockpit on the hardtop, we have 1,600 watts of panels. And then on the custom carbon fiber array, we have another 4,000 watts of panels, giving you over 10,000 watts of solar, which allows for you to be completely off the grid no matter where you are in the world. And the last thing I want to touch on here on the starboard weather deck are the Kevlar shrouds, which were custom built by Fabrica Workshop in Spain, which is a renowned rigging outfit with America's Cup experience. Making our way down the starboard weather deck, a quick safety detail I'm going to point out is the integrated handrail in the cockpit hardtop. Now, making our way towards the cockpit, we're going to take a quick pit stop here at the helm. One thing that really impressed me about getting out sailing on Orion is how easily she was handled with a short-handed crib. She's currently being run by the owner and his two sons, not professionally trained captains, and the reason they're able to manage a boat of this size, scale, and power is because of a well thought out deck plan we'll talk about in a minute, but probably more importantly, a very well thought out helm design. Diving right into the performance features of this helm arrangement, we're going to start with the carbon fiber helm, which is linked to the steering with Dyneema cable, giving you the ability to sail this boat very easily with incredible feedback and responsiveness from the rudders. This catamaran is more like driving a 50-foot performance boat than a 90-foot catamaran, which makes it an absolute blast to sail. Segueing from the performance part of the helm to the safety part of the helm, there's a lot going on here. We've got controllers and counters for the Muir hydraulic windlass. We have the chart plotter, which integrates with the radar and AIS, as well as we have the B&G wind instrument and autopilot, all things easily seen. Now, another thing with this helm that I like that is not only a safety thing, but a comfort thing, is the actual helm arrangement itself. And a lot of times with the twin aft helm catamaran, they're not the most secure feeling locations. I like the fact that when you step into the helm of Orion, you feel just completely secure. I mean, it was a testament to that when we were out sailing while I was sitting at the helm in some pretty snotty conditions that really showed me what a great, safe helm arrangement this is. You know, the performance and safety components of this helm definitely bleed into the comfort of it as well. At the end of the day, there's a bit of an overlap, like a Venn diagram, between the three main design philosophies. Everything we see here on this starboard helm is mirrored over at the port side. There's so much going on back here on the transom of Orion. We're going to start by talking about the fact that there's 4,000 watts of bifacial solar on a custom carbon fiber array, which dramatically reduced the weight on the davits from the original wing done at Catana. Now, talking about the davits, that is the perfect place to retrieve and deploy your Caesar tender, which those are not that common here in North America or the Caribbean, but it's a South African style racing power catamaran, which absolutely rips. Now, here back on the transom on both starboard and port, we also have a hot cold shower. I don't know what else to say than just standing back here, looking up at Orion. The scale of this boat is unbelievably impressive. And while we were out sailing on her, just seeing the stern wake rolling off of these transoms really showed how performance oriented this whole design is. From that starboard sugar scoop, we're gonna make our way to the first mechanical space, which is currently under my feet right now. In here, you're gonna find the first of two Perkins 215 horsepower diesels And one thing I want to point out is they have a secondary alternator, which just helps generate more electricity back into the house bank. Also in here, we'll find one of the 2 chillers on board for the air conditioning system. All the way aft in the mechanical space, you have incredibly good access to the steering quadrant. And the final thing worth mentioning in the starboard engine compartment is the larger of 2 generators, which is a 26 kilowatt Northern Lights. More importantly though, that Northern Lights generator is attached to the hydraulic pump, which powers not only the bow thruster, the Muir windlass, but most importantly, the Harken deck plan on board the boat, which includes 8 hydraulic winches and a hydraulic main sheet setup. These 2 primary Harken 980 self-tailing winches control the halyards, they control the reefing lines, and anything else that requires that extra bit of power to move Orion seamlessly through the water. Now, beautiful thing that I like a lot about this setup is how the line plan is very easily managed because it runs from the base of the mast through a channel back here to the cockpit, making it not only seamless to operate because of the 2 banks of jammers, but much safer than having those lines up on deck. Because at the end of the day, when you get into a boat in this class, these lines are under tons and tons of pressure. It's important to have a gauge knowing how much pressure is running through the system, and a critical safety component of this arrangement is having emergency kills for the hydraulic system, depowering all of the winches in the event of emergency. Not only did we have the one here centerline, but you also see there's one at each helm station. And an organized deck is a safe deck, and beneath me we've got really, really nice line storage. Making our way outboard in the helm though, let's talk a little bit more about this deck plan. We've got a set of Harken 70s, which are used right now for deploying the tender, but they're also the primary winches that you would use for operating the Traveler, which in a performance sailing catamaran is one of the most common sail trim adjustments you'll make. We have a Harken 1111 as well as an additional Harken 70 self-tailing winch. The Harken 1111 is used for the head sail trim because of the loads on those large sails, be it the Yankee, the Jib, the Genoa, or the Jenniker. You need an oversized winch like this. And then the 70 on the outboard side is used for raising and lowering the dagger boards. So we've already talked about the impressive deck plan with the oversized winches. That covers the performance component of this cockpit. Safety through the emergency kill for the hydraulic system and the line organizers keeps it a very safe deck area. Let's jump into the comfort. Usually when you think of a performance cruising catamaran, comfort is compromised in the name of performance. As you can see here on board Orion, there is no compromise to the comfort. All the way on the outboard side port, we have an oversized day bed. Just inboard of that, we have this beautiful L-shaped settee with custom wood dining table. Easily could fit 10 people around this table. Just behind me on the starboard side, we have the wet bar with ice maker. Aft of that, we have a nice settee, and then outboard of that, we have a day bed that mirrors what we already saw on the port side. Another comfort item here in the cockpit is the residential style barbecue adjacent to the port helm, really rounding out what is a truly comfortable space. Underfoot, we have copious amounts of storage. Under this particular deck locker, we have a deep freezer. Just after that, we have a second deep freezer, and all these other deck lockers have as much space as you've already seen here, meaning you've got more than enough room to bring everything you could possibly need on a circumnavigation. And a final detail here in the cockpit are the B&G instrument repeaters, which are repeated on the inside bulkhead of the boat as well. My first impression when I step into the salon on Orion is just quality. Starting at the wooden French cherry detail in the ceiling, the Alcantara, and just the high quality woodwork throughout from head to toe. Now, one unique thing about the interior of Orion is the fact that all of the cabinetry is foam core, meaning not only is it incredibly beautiful because of the real wood veneer, but it's insanely strong and light. Directly behind me, we have a large U-shaped settee lounging area with a flat screen television and Bose surround sound system. One word that comes to mind when I look at this space, and that's cozy. It's just the kind of place you really look forward to hanging out in after a long day on the water. Continuing forward from there, we make our way to the lower nav station on board Orion. If the sails and rigging are the heart of this machine, this is the brains. All the way centerline, we've got a vessel management system. Continuing to starboard from there, we have B&G electronics, wind instruments, Victron controller. We've got our communication devices. And probably one of the more impressive safety upgrades that have been made on Orion is they completely reworked the bilge system, which, from the factory maybe didn't quite have the capacity that a boat in this class should have. So now there's 5 well-defined bilge areas in each hull. As somebody that spent a lot of time offshore sailing, I can't tell you how jealous I am of this nav station chair. It's electronically adjustable and it is insanely comfortable. Making our way down to the starboard companionway, which we'll come back to here in a minute, we've got a couple of important systems in place. So we have the fire monitoring system. We've got both water maker controls, and I can't wait to show you where those water makers are located on board the boat. And then below this smoked glass, we have a couple of other controls, including the generator controls and air chiller controls. We're gonna make our way to the opposite side of the salon and check out the galley. And truth be told, I am jealous of this galley. It's far nicer than my kitchen at home. We have tons of Corian countertop space throughout. I also love the fact that there's a second level of countertop in a smoked glass, which essentially doubles your countertop space. More than adequate cold storage in the space with a dual drawer Frigomar refrigerator. We'll also point out when we go down the port companionway, additional cold storage there. We've got a Bosch microwave. We've got a hood underneath here, which is really clever the way they hid that. We have a Gaggenau 5-burner cooktop, as well as a Bosch oven beneath that. You'll also see as you look in this space that there's just tons of storage, which is a theme we saw everywhere on the exterior of the boat, and you're gonna continue to see that throughout the interior. There's also a dual basin sink, which gives you more than adequate space for doing dishes or cleaning up after a delightful meal, as well as a purified water spigot that also has a mineralizer, which puts minerals back into the water that come from the water maker. And the final appliance here in the galley is the Belay dishwasher. So you just got done with a long offshore passage. Just got done cooking dinner. Now you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor in a remote destination, and I can't think of a better place to break bread with my family after accomplishing an ocean voyage than this beautiful L-shaped settee port forward. And just another detail on this boat that I love are these cabinets behind the settee. You can see how they perfectly match the grain of the wood, which gives you great storage, and it's just an elegant solution. We're gonna make our way down the port companionway, and before we check out any of the guest staterooms, I just wanted to show you guys the port mechanical space access. Let's go ahead and dive down the hole and take a look. There's no point in having 10,000 watts of solar unless you've got the ability to properly harness all of that energy. And as you can see, we're currently in one of the mechanical spaces on board the boat, which acts as the electrical room. And here we have 25 Victron MPPT controllers, which harness all of the power of the sun. Now, directly behind me, we've got the master volt inverters. We have a total of 16,000 watts between the 4 inverters on board. And just to make it really clear, we're in the mechanical space below the living accommodations on board Orion, and there's just so much storage here, and there's such good access. I mean, right now we can see all the way from the rear watertight bulkhead all the way to the forward watertight bulkhead, which is quite unique in a 90-foot catamaran. Making our way forward in the port hull, first thing you see is the head on the outboard side, as well as the shower on the inboard side. Continuing forward, we pass the washer dryer on the outboard side. This boat was originally designed to be run with a crew of 4, and this is the crew area on board Orion. So on the inboard side, we've got a bunk room, which can accommodate 3 crew members. And all the way port forward, we have the captain's quarters, which can accommodate, a captain and his wife if it's a couple running the boat. There's also the provision to add a bunk bed here, which you can see the slots for. Although I think in most cases, this is how the captain's quarters will be utilized. And one quick thing worth pointing out is while this is a crew area of the boat, it is appointed to the same high level of fit and finish found throughout the yacht. Just aft of the port companionway, we have a ton of cold storage in this full-size freezer, as well as these 2 isotherm units just aft. Continuing aft, we get to the 3rd stateroom in the port hull, which in its current setup has 2 twins, although there are filler cushions to convert it into a king-size bed. And one thing you'll see everywhere you go in the hulls on board Orion is just tons of storage. We've got large hanging lockers here on the inboard side. as well as storage on the outboard side. And this is a great time to point out the custom desk that each cabin has. This family is on a sailing sabbatical, and so remote learning is incredibly important. So each one of the staterooms has a proper workstation. And just forward in the stateroom on the outboard side is the ensuite head. The first thing you've got when you come down the starboard hull and hit the landing is the day head on board Orion. As we continue forward from there, also on the outboard side, we have a full head, and adjacent to that head, we have the bunk room, which can easily accommodate 3 people. Here in the starboard forward cabin on the outboard side, we have a beautiful custom workstation that the current owners put in. And then forward of that, we have the king size berth. And like the other staterooms you've already seen, everywhere you look, there is storage. Access is always a challenge on any boat, as we've mentioned before. And having good access to your mechanical spaces like we have here on Orion is quite unique in a sailing catamaran. Currently where we're sitting right now, we have our sea recovery water makers, both aft and forward. And you can just see we've got good access to the tankage, to the electrical runs, to really anything you'll need to service on this boat. Making our way aft down the starboard hull, we get into the owner's stateroom. First thing I want to point out is the copious amount of storage here on the inboard side. As we continue making our way aft, we get here to kind of the living room area, if you will, of the stateroom with the workstation and desk. Just forward of that on the outboard side, we've got the owner's head. As we continue all the way to the aftmost portion of the stateroom, we get to the actual sleeping accommodations, which is a full-size king berth with tons of natural light flooding into the space from these 4 opening portholes, as well as overhead deck hatch. Wow is all I have to say. I mean, I cannot believe that I got to go out sailing on Orion. I mean, this is a boat that when I was coming up in the yachting industry, that was just like a storied boat, like Che or Hemisphere or any of these other legendary catamarans. And to be out today experiencing her for the first time underway, it's humbling. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching this video. There's nothing I would love more than to come back down to Curacao and bring you on board Orion for a personal tour. So if you have any interest in coming and seeing her, or if you have any questions on the boat, definitely leave me a comment down below. Shoot us an email. On behalf of myself and the team at Catamaran Central, thank you so much.